Hello friends and welcome to Phone Truths, which is brought to you by Sky Mobile, Ireland's newest network, and it's also mobile you can expect more from. So, how can you expect more, I hear you ask? Well, listen up, because I'm about to tell you. So you can expect flexible data plans to let you change your plan whenever you like. You can also expect your bill to come down automatically once your phone is paid off, and you even get access to exclusive Sky rewards, like flights to Europe and loads more. It sounds absolutely incredible, to be fair. So don't settle for less. Sky Mobile is here, and it's time to expect more. You can visit sky.ie/mobile to find out more. How's it going, friends? Welcome back to another episode of Phone Truths, the podcast where we find out more about the lives of our guests through the prism of their phone. Now, today's guest, I'm really excited to chat to. One, because, look, he's sound, he's absolutely gas, but I also think he might have some really useful information when it comes to keeping a leash on these things. I'm holding my phone in my hand, by the way. He is just the most incredible guy. I'm really excited. You're going to love this chat. Today's guest is Dermot Whelan.
Hold on, I just have to send a joke to Dave. It's my favourite thing I've seen in ages. I'll show it to you in a second.
I think we should use this as the intro.
Dave sent me a video of possums licking water this morning. in time with a song by Tool, which is like the greatest gift anyone could give. So I just sent him another one there.
Well, what a way to start, because it is, Dermot, such a joy to have you here. And I want to start off by talking about the first time we met each other. Can you remember where it was?
Oh.
It was a pretty cool way to meet you for the first time. We were in Tulsa in Oklahoma.
Oh my God, that's right.
We were brought over by U2 for the opening of their new tour in 2018, something like that.
That's right, yeah.
The Innocence and Experience tour. But I kind of made a bit of an arse of myself immediately because we were on the bus together and I started calling over towards you saying, Dave. And you weren't turning around. I was like, what's wrong with this fella? It's like, Dave. And then you turn around and you're like, Dermot, you mean? It was like, oh yes, okay, sorry. I've absolutely made an absolute balls of this already.
Like, that happens, I'd say, 3 times a day.
Really?
Still. Yeah.
Gas.
Yeah. I was doing a talk for a company yesterday. 3 people came up to me after it and said, Dave, that was great.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, if they come up and say, Dave, that was terrible, I go, oh, okay, my name is definitely Dave.
The two of you are obviously still in touch.
We are, yeah. I really enjoy messaging him during the radio show, just so I can distract him.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But I would have got this in terms of myself with the breakfast show with Doireann and Donncha. And it was really very much the same looking from the outside in for yourself and Dave, where you could tell none of that was made up. You could tell the two of you were really tight. And even now I can still see that you're still tight.
Yeah, of course. You can't fake it, as you know yourself. Listeners will know.
Yeah.
You know, the human ear is very tuned to little nuances. And when radio presenters who hate each other are on the air, you'll know.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of them.
We'll all start scanning the radio stations now.
Yeah. But no, we're still obviously great mates. I mean, you can't be best mates for 20 years and then just stop.
Yes.
You know? So,
okay.
But if I can distract him while he's trying to do his job, I will do that.
Do you miss the everyday of it, or is it just in a period now you're
Do you know,
happy?
I was lying in bed and I literally said this to my wife. It was 8:20 and I just put on a guided meditation beside me and I went, it's so great not having to go into the radio studio.
Okay, yeah.
So, there are days I miss the routine for sure. Because, having somewhere to go every morning and get up at a certain time gives you a sense of purpose.
Okay.
And when you take that away, sometimes it can just add little more micro decisions to your day.
Yes.
But yeah, some days obviously I miss the routine. I miss the crack of the radio show. But I'm loving my new life.
Yes. Okay.
If I want to say that in an Image magazine article kind of way. My new life.
It's all very glam. Well, you do look very rested, I must say.
Thank you.
There's a lovely glow from you. I'm really interested to talk to you because a lot of the people who come on here, they often talk about battling, with the phone constantly being a pull on their attention. I'm interested to talk to you because I feel like you might have some really good kind of tips or tactics or ways around it. Maybe you won't, but we'll get into it. What I do want to know, though, is does your phone play a big part in your life?
I'd say, like many people, it plays a bigger part than I wish it did. Certainly since I became self-employed, there's so much pressure to be your own marketeer. Now, like, I'm a creative person because I'm no good at the marketing side, business side of things. That's why I've done what I've done on radio and comedy and stuff. So who just suddenly decided that I had to be across algorithms? I don't have that brain. You know, and I think you obviously probably feel the same way because it's such a huge part of your day. You're a content creator.
It is. It's huge. The funny thing as well, though, the part of it that I sometimes find difficult to grapple with is that whole idea of it being an algorithm. Like, there's oftentimes I could put huge amounts of effort into a video and writing it and scripting it and shooting it and making sure the edit is perfect, and it does nothing. It goes nowhere. And then it is the biggest steaming pile of shite that you put up online. And that's what I recently had a video where I was screaming Italy. And
the pile of shite?
Yeah, exactly. I have a video where I was playing this stupid game, screaming Italy at the phone, and it has 40 million views. Most people are like, geez, that's brilliant. I'm like, no, that's really disheartening. Like, that is really disheartening that's what goes, you know?
I know, but I feel like we're in this weird period that we'll look back and go, why were we doing that?
Yeah.
I think AI is going to have a massive impact on how much work we actually have to do. But at the moment, you feel so used by the social media companies and their algorithms because they keep changing them. Like, I was doing great guns, and then about 6 months ago, it's like someone just put a freeze button on my account.
Yes.
And now it's just like, do not give him one follower.
Yeah.
Add one and then take one away every day so he stays the same forever.
Yeah.
And you feel like a bit like, do you ever see in movies like a dominatrix? You know, who's standing there with their whip going, whoosh, get down on the floor. Now bark like a dog. That's it. Make a video. Spend 4 hours on CapCut putting titles and effects on it. Choose your font. Whoosh. Now, like, this is what we are. We're just like crawling around with an apple in our mouth for Instagram going, what do you want to do next? They're like, bark, meow like a cat, shout Italy into your phone.
And I will shout Italy into my phone, don't you worry about that.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what we need to do now? Everyone listening to this needs to go across and follow you. And let's screw the dominatrix.
Yes. Well, she'd probably be up for it.
Okay, and then from a personal point of view, does it play a big part in your life, your phone?
I see it very much. It's probably 70-30 work, social life. Yeah. You know. So, for instance, this morning I was chatting to my brother, trying to organise a game of golf with him. But before that, I'd done a load of, email-y, worky things.
Yes.
I do have WhatsApp groups that I love dipping into, just of the lads. You start these WhatsApp groups. When you go on a ski holiday in like 2011 and they still go, they continue. I love those ones because I think it's really important to have places on your phone that you can go that make you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes if you are just all work on your phone, if it is a device, I talk about it in a book. I've been studying busyness for the last few months, and I have a book coming out next year called Busy and Wrecked. And when I look at the phone, even the word device, we sort of give it this huge importance. Like, device suggests a really important tool. Like, other devices are like, I need this particular device to open this very important thing. Like, we bestow this level of importance on it by calling it a device. And is it really, or is it just this extension or, home of addiction and algorithms and, I don't really know. But so I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the phone, I have to say, because I guess in the mindfulness space, you're constantly aware of the things that are trying to rob you of your attention,
I'm interested in the mindfulness part of things because I suppose from the outside looking in, it probably looked like you had quite a career pivot.
But was that something that was on the burn for a while? And was there anything that triggered you really getting into it?
I've been meditating personally since like 2009.
Okay.
So that's when my own practice started. I didn't become a teacher until 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a whole 9 years there of me exploring this whole space by myself, you know, and I had no intention to become a teacher. It's just sort of happened. I just wanted to know more.
Yes.
And then it ended up happening. But I had like panic attacks in the noughties sort of sent me on the road. And like you, I was on breakfast radio at the time and I had small kids and I was doing comedy at nighttime. And so, you know, lack of sleep, small children, extra responsibility, having to perform every day.
Yeah.
I don't want to worry you, Carl. But yeah, you're going to be a mess. Well, I did. How long are you on breakfast radio?
I'm 3 and a bit years now.
Okay.
on it, yeah.
I did 8.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you're
I have a
for
while
now.
to go before the
Yeah.
walls come tumbling in. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you feel a large pressure on your chest some morning, you know, maybe call the GP.
It's funny though that you say that because I actually haven't really like spoken about this like on the podcast. But when our second child Ayla was born, like towards the end of towards the very start of this year, I noticed a serious shift in something going on inside me, and it was definitely to do with lack of sleep. That was, for me, the trigger. And it was the lack of sleep from the fact that she wasn't sleeping. And then it was breakfast radio on top of it. But it's funny then when I hear you talking about this idea of like always being on. And that actually does add to the whole thing. And I think for me, in January this year, it did become too much. So I started going to see a psychologist because I just was like, I can't figure this out. I need someone to figure it out for me.
Good for you. I love when I hear particularly blokes say, I went to talk to somebody, therapist, psychologist, psychotherapist, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's always like just opening the bonnet of your car, looking underneath and going, oh, that's how my own particular engine works.
Yes.
When I put stress on this part, it affects this part. Interesting. And I consistently underestimated lack of sleep.
Yeah.
That the effect that lack of sleep would have in all areas of my life.
Okay, interesting. Do you think these are having a big effect on like anxiety and, you know, just those pressures?
You know, if you think about it, like everybody's phone, like every app on that probably uses some of the world's best psychologists. And their only function is to drag your attention out of the present moment. Mm-hmm. Like there's this study, Harvard study, that in 2010, I'm pretty sure it was published. And it's called A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind. And I love this study because it shows that the more time we spend not thinking about the thing that we're doing, where our mind is pulled in different directions, probably into the future or into the past.
Yeah.
The study showed that the more time we spend not thinking about what we're doing, in aimless mind wandering, the less happy we are. So 47% of the time, we're not actually thinking about the thing that we're doing, right? So in this, it was a really interesting study actually, because it was kind of ironic. They used phones to track distraction.
Yeah.
Even though a phone is pretty much the biggest tool of distraction we know.
Yeah.
So they gave a load of people iPhones with a particular app on it, and they'd ping them at different times during the day. And they'd ask them, what are you doing? Are you thinking about the thing that you're doing? And are you happy?
Yeah.
And so with all this feedback, they came back and they found that 47% of the time, so nearly half the time, we're not thinking about the thing we're doing.
Wow.
And they found that we're less happy when we're not focused on the thing we're doing. Now, what they did find was that the top 3 things for keeping us focused were having a really good conversation. So when we're doing this, we tend to be present. Exercise is another one. So a lot of people love exercise. One of the reasons is when you do it, you tend to be thinking about the exercise, generally speaking, and helps you to feel good. And the third one is making love. So we
Okay.
tend generally to be focused on the act.
Yeah.
Although, if the person you're with isn't that attractive, maybe you're letting that mind wander. So my advice is, if you want to stay fully present and deal with the distraction of things like our phones, then put on your sneakers, run down to your best friend's house, have an amazing conversation for an hour, and then make love to them. Okay?
It's the secret. There it is, right in front of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you were talking about that. I had a conversation with Baz there recently, and that was something that I unlocked even from that conversation, which was the 2 times that I can pinpoint that I will ever be at my most creative. They are when I'm running or when I'm driving. And the only reason for that is because they're the only 2 times that I'm not distracted by this thing being on my phone. Being in my hand, sorry, by my phone not being in my hand.
Well, like, that's because there is, now I'm not a neuroscientist, but there is a area of the brain called the default mode network. And basically that kicks into gear when you're doing very little.
Okay.
So this is why we have these great aha moments and fantastic ideas in places like the shower, or when we're driving, or when we're walking or running. Because it is one of the few times of the day where, exactly as you say, you're not focused on one particular thing, like you're buried in your phone or distracted.
To be fair, driving I probably should be more focused.
But this is why, because in recent years they've realized that what originally looked to scientists like zero activity is actually the time that you're allowing all things to process.
Yeah.
And so we need to give our brains that space to think creatively.
Yes.
Because if you're in the go, stuck into your phone all day, you don't have that. And that default mode network you're not able to access it because you're not giving it a chance to do what it's meant to do, to process things and allow ideas and creativity to come through.
Okay. I could talk to you about this for like all day long, but I'd imagine there's a lot of people who will be listening to this going, God, this is hitting a bit of a chord with me. So I do know your podcast is a great place for them to go to. What other reasons? Well, let's give a shout out to the podcast first.
Thank you. The Mindful Podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. So we pick a different topic like flow state or anxiety, overwhelm, creativity, anything like that.
Yeah.
We have a well-known face. We've had Cillian Murphy on there. We've had Mary Bonet from Selling Sunset. We've all kinds of guests. And we also have technical experts, as we call them. So psychologists, neuroscientists, who would know all about things like default mode networks more than I would. But I love it because I love getting the technical information, and then you get someone who you know with lived experience of what we talk about, and I just love it.
If there's anyone else like, feeling a bit overwhelmed, any other resources that you found helpful, over the years?
Well, obviously meditation is a tool that I've learned, but it's not the only tool.
Yeah.
I always encourage people, like I was giving a talk yesterday and a guy put up his hand at the end and it was a great thing to say. He just said, what if you try meditation and it just doesn't work? Then you just feel bad. Then you start beating yourself up even more. And I was like, you're so right. Because sometimes people go, well, I tried it and I didn't get anything out of it. Now, it does take time. It's not like you do 10 press-ups and go, hey, I'm not ripped.
Yeah,
it does take time.
Yeah.
But for some people, they just feel like, I get nothing from this. And what I encourage people to go, okay, well then, is there anything in your life that you used to do where you lose track of time? Was it playing a guitar? Was it going for a run? Mm-hmm. Was it drawing? Was it painting? Was it singing in a choir? Was there something, skateboarding, whatever it happens to be, where you lost track of time? Then do more of those things.
Okay.
Because that, again, is allowing those parts of the brain to just let that creativity flow.
Yeah.
And they're really important for us. I compare it to like a Jenga tower.
Yes.
And when we get really busy and distracted, we tend to let go of those things that are our natural de-stressors, those things where we do sort of drift into flow state and lose track of time. And we don't realize that it's only when we take them away, we realize that our little Jenga tower, when we pull out those blocks, we start to feel unstable.
Yes.
So it's about if you can't do meditation, if it doesn't work for you, then lean into the things that are your natural de-stressors.
Yeah.
I bet you if you're feeling a bit ragged, a bit frayed around the edges, you've probably let those things go. Have you had a laugh with your best friend? You know, have you made love to them?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, have you been, you know, seeing your mates?
Yeah.
Have you been just getting out in nature? Have you been playing with the dog? Have you been going for that round of golf or whatever it is? And I bet you if you're really busy and feeling stressed, you've probably pulled out a few of those Jenga blocks.
Yes. Very good. I completely understand that there's an irony to us talking about the distraction that the phone has and how it feeds into all this. But I'm now going to shift back to the phone.
Yeah, but no, the phone I think should be force for good.
Yes.
You know, it's a bit like a knife or a hatchet.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you can be an axe murderer.
Yes.
Or you can just chop some wood for the fire and keep yourself warm. Like I use my phone all the time for guided meditations.
Okay.
I was using it last night and I was using it first thing this morning.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful gift. It's amazing. And I can get like 1,000 different meditation teachers on this thing, you know, in one app.
Yes.
And that's class, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, you can use it for a force for good. You just, I guess, you know, to use the word mindful, we can use a phone mindfully,
Yes.
you know, and see the type of content. Like, are you watching news feeds? You know, as soon as you look at a news feed on your phone first thing in the morning, your cortisol levels go up by 20%. So there's your stress hormone spiking the minute you pick up your phone to look at a news feed. And a lot of the time we have news notifications. It's like, if something really bad happens, I'd like Sky News to tell me directly. You know? And I always say, like, if somebody poked their head in as soon as our alarm went off into our bedroom and said, you know, hey, Carl, okay, sorry to bother you so early in the morning, but there's a massive fire and some people might be dead. I'll talk to you again in an hour.
Yeah, I know it is. It's
like,
crazy.
what?
It is.
You'd say, get the hell out of here.
Yeah. It's so funny because it when you're explaining it in that way, it really shows the importance of just creating boundaries. Like
Yeah.
we create boundaries in our own personal lives. When it comes to people, we're probably much better at that. But like creating boundaries with your phone and the way in which it's your kind of lens into everything that's going on around the world.
But again, you can use it as a force for good. I'm not a believer that you just have to hide or, you know, throw the phone into the sea, guys, and go and live in a cabin. That's not real life. You know, there's another study, a woman called Ariana Huffington did it in the States. And what they did was they showed people 3 minutes of negative news first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And then they checked in with them at the end of the day to ask them how their day went, how they felt their day had been. And what they found was people who'd been exposed to 3 minutes of negative news, at the end of their day, say 5, 6 o'clock, they were 30%, almost 30% more likely to say that they had a crap day.
Wow.
They showed another group of people news. They still showed them news, but it was a different kind of news. It was like empowering news. 80-year-old man finally gets driving test.
Yeah.
You know, pass the driving test. You know, these inner city kids are starting their own business and they're really successful. So empowering news, it had the opposite effect. Those people were more likely to say that their day had gone well after exposing themselves to those. So things like the good news movement and all these things that you can tap into. There are good news or more positive, constructive news websites that you can, and it will actually have the opposite effect.
That's super interesting. And it's just triggered a thought in my brain. I don't know if you ever found this, but when, like, we're doing the breakfast show, there'd be times when I find that you're going, there must be something in the water. Because when the people who come out to like kind of troll you or to make a complaint or to have a go, they all seem to come out on the same day, like all at once. And I often think to myself, that's a bit crazy. Like, what is it that has just triggered everyone to be in a bad mood today? And then I'm thinking, I wonder, could it be to do with the news that's on that day? You know what I mean? Because during the radio show, you're not really listening to the news bulletin, you know, because you're planning other stuff. But could there be something in the news bulletin that's just triggering people? It's just setting them off in the wrong way.
It's one of the things that I never got used to with 20 years of radio. I never got used to the fact that we stopped the fun every hour and in breakfast every half hour to tell people really terrible things.
Yeah.
It's so weird that that's normal.
Yeah.
You're like, you're on the phone to an amazing caller. It's like, Deirdre, tell him, what did your husband do then? I tell you, he fell out the window and he landed on a giant pile of jam. And you're like, oh, Oh my God, hang on. Stay on the line, Deirdre. 4 people have fallen into a well. They're down the bottom of the well. They may be dead. The price of everything that you like has gone up by 52%, and you'll never be able to own a home, nor will your children or their grandchildren. Back to you guys in the studio. Okay, anyway, where were we? It's okay. It's okay, Deirdre. Forget about it. We're all depressed now. Don't care about the jam anymore, or your husband. Isn't it weird?
It's so true. I never thought about it.
When did that become normal?
Yeah. You were talking about WhatsApp a few minutes ago. What's the most lit of all your WhatsApp groups?
I'm actually in a Signal group. Can I just check?
Yes, please.
'Cause,
I always have my phone out in front of me during this.
Okay, well, because I was on it this morning and the name of it keeps changing. And I was looking at a joke. This is the one I sent to Dave earlier. I don't know if I can explain it properly. It's a photo of an Irish pub, right?
Yeah.
And the name above the door, obviously the family who own the pub, is RONAGHAN. Okay?
Okay.
And the caption is, me, what's your favourite county? Scooby-Doo, Running. It's so stupid. But this was in my Signal group, which at the moment is called Welted Seeping Meatloaf. And then underneath, Ein Gemütlichkeit Dwarfmeister. I don't understand, but all I know is wonderful things happen in this group, and it makes me happy. And this is a force for good on my phone.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm sweating from laughing already. Okay, this is Jesus. This is going to be an 8-hour episode. I'm just loving these chats. It's unbelievable.
Sorry, were we meant to end ages ago?
No. I love this. I haven't even got on to like the real meaty questions, but it's been so interesting to hear that perspective on things. I want to go back now for a little bit of nostalgia.
Okay.
What was your first phone? Can you remember it?
It was a Motorola. It was in the 90s.
Yes.
So I don't remember the type of the serial number or anything. It was just a giant brick. It had one of those pulley up aerials.
Oh yeah, that's your proper OG.
And it had proper beep, boop, beep, beep. It was like, I'm dialing a number now, everybody. Beep, beep, boop, beep. And it was very exciting to have it because it obviously had text messages on it. And
Yes.
these were brand new. So I did, this was after my pager. I did have a pager. And I know you only see them in
Grey's Anatomy or something.
Yeah, reruns of shows when you're hungover. Somebody's talking about their pager. But I did have a pager when it was in my early 20s, and I just thought I was the coolest guy. Like, if anyone doesn't know how the pager worked, you would feel a or a ding ding.
Yeah.
And then you take it off your belt clip, because that's where cool guys wore it. And then you would look at it, and a message would run across, ticker tape, like kind of Bloomberg-y type. And it would say just, this person rang, and a number. So then you'd go to a landline and call them and go, what do you want?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, in some ways though, kind of nicer as well, because it created that level of separation. You weren't instantly contactable.
Exactly. Well, it was on you.
Yeah.
You had a bit of control.
I'll get back to you at my convenience.
Yeah.
Now, in saying that, I don't have to answer the phone every time it rings. That's the other thing.
No, but people get annoyed with you if you miss, you've got 10 or 15 DM, instant messaging ways they can contact you.
Yes.
And if you miss one of them, it's like,
it's so hard to stay on top
I
of them.
sent you an emoji on LinkedIn 3 weeks ago. You never got back to me. You're
What's
like,
your problem?
so what?
Yeah. I would like to get into now the highlights really of your phone. What are some of your favourite memories you have in your camera roll? The things that you find yourself going back to. You talked about your phone being a force for good. What are the things that you find that you go back to? You're like, oh, wow, that's a lovely memory. I'm so glad I have that there.
I was only just looking at some of the trips that myself and Dave took over the years the other day. We went to the Euros in 2012. We brought the show over there.
Yeah.
We did the same in 2016 in Paris. And that was just a crazy trip because Paris, it was just full of, Poland was busy, but Paris was particularly mental.
Okay.
With the fans. It was just absolutely brilliant. And I remember, I love looking at the photos of our apartment because we somehow jammily ended up with the greatest apartment in the world, like gorgeous old Parisian building looking out directly onto the Eiffel Tower.
Wow.
It was incredible. Meanwhile, our production crew, my producer Maria and Cahill and Sean and Emer were all down living on a houseboat, on a barge on the river, which was just packed with spiders. So they hated it. It stank. It was moldy. It was full of spiders. And meanwhile, we were like the two lads living it up the road. Oh, don't mind if I do. Bien, bien.
Yeah.
Merci. But yeah, so I love looking back actually on the fun stuff I did in radio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite moment that you've captured within your camera roll? Something like, I don't know, to do with your kids or anything like that. You're going, wow, I'm so glad the camera was there for that.
Nothing like them falling off stuff. Or you know, one of my favourite moments, I guess there's some pictures you kind of like because they represent maybe something you achieved or a certain time in your life, you know. And there's definitely there's a photo on my phone of me at the top of Kilimanjaro, which I did at the start of this year.
Wow.
And for me, that was just a major accomplishment. It was one of the toughest physical and mental things I've ever done.
Right.
I really didn't think it was going to be that hard.
Yeah. Which I don't think
I
think a lot of people have this perception that it's a bit of a piece of piss.
Yeah, and I certainly did. I thought it would be like a tough hike.
Yeah.
But no, it's a proper trek adventure through the snow. You've got, 30% less of that lovely oxygen you normally have when you're jaunting around Glendalough on your hikes or whatever it is. So it's a whole different ballgame, and you're sleeping on the side of the mountain as well. And so there's a lot of mental and physical work that you have to do. I'm not making out like this is, I didn't do 30 marathons in 30 days like Spencer Matthews in a desert.
Yeah.
But for me and the people I was with, and I thought I was pretty fit, this was a real test, and some people didn't make it in terms of they survived, but they just didn't get to the top, because there's lots of things at play. So when I look at the photo of me up at the top of the mountain, and it was just at the time that I was leaving radio. So, a mountain is a pretty obvious metaphor for, taking on a challenge in your life. So stepping away from my career and everything that I'd worked towards in radio to do something new in mindfulness, I guess that photo constantly reassures me that I can do it, that, that to stick with the plan.
Yeah. This sounds stupid. That's that's what Dancing with the Stars was for me.
Yeah.
Like in terms of it was a bit of nonsense, a bit of like fluff on the TV. But at the same time, I'm like, Jesus, I was terrified doing that. And you look back at it and you're like, okay, if I ever have a moment where I waver and my confidence goes, I'm like, if you can get out and do a tango whilst tied to someone on national television, you can do this. You know what I mean?
I don't know how you are the other contestants. Anytime I talk to former Dancing with the Stars contestants, it's like talking to like Vietnam vets. They're like, hey man, nobody knows what it was like. We danced for 9 hours a day. It's a paparazzi everywhere.
It's so true. It's so true. It was wild. Okay, I want to get into the good, the bad, the ugly now. So this is the part where this is a mixture of nostalgia. This is a mixture of shit shows. This is a mixture of everything. We'll start off with the positive. What's the best phone call you've ever got to make?
It was ringing my wife from the top of Kilimanjaro.
Really?
On WhatsApp, because they have
a ringer up there.
They have Wi-Fi at the very top of, just shy of 6,000 meters. They have Wi-Fi up there. It's brutal all the way up. It's non-existent pretty much. But when you get to the top, they have it.
That's
so you can call anyone. So it was kind of really surreal. You're like literally above the clouds, surrounded by snow and ice, and you're like, hiya, what's for lunch?
I don't know why this is the question that's come into my head. Is there a password on the Wi-Fi network, and what is it called?
I think you log straight in. I don't think, because in fairness, with that lack of oxygen, you can't think straight. So a password would completely stump you at that point.
Okay, what's the best phone call you've ever received?
These are the ones when you ask men, I'm sure there's something to do with my wife or children that I'm meant to be remembering. But actually, one of the best phone calls I got was from my agency who look after me when I'm writing books and things like that. And I was driving along the quays in Dublin, and Niamh rang me to say, your book is a #1 bestseller.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And she's like, it's the best-selling book in the country. Well done. And I guess, again, that was one of those milestones, a little bit like the Kilimanjaro. Like, you've imposter syndrome. Why am I writing a book? Who wants to read this thing?
Yeah.
Who do I think I am?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't even think I could ever write a book.
Yes.
And so I do remember that phone call. And it's not a humble brag, but I think these things are... It's really important to celebrate our wins.
Yes.
You know, because
we're really
we don't
bad
tend
at
to.
it. We're really bad at it here in this country.
Yeah, but I think everybody is. And because of the pace of life, it's always on to the next. What's next? What's next?
Yeah.
So it's really important that we celebrate those moments where if you put a lot of work into something, you know, and a book does demand a lot of your time and attention. It took me months to do it.
Yeah.
And then when you get a phone call with a bit of good news, but obviously the birth of my children as well. But in fairness, I was there for those.
Yeah. So that didn't involve a phone call.
No.
So it's fine.
I wasn't down the pub.
Have you ever received a phone call that really made your stomach drop?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you get phone calls about illness, you know. I got a phone call to say that my mum had dementia. That's hard to get because that just sparks a load of questions.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've had loved ones go through cancer and, you know, they generally start with a phone call. And they're funny things because when you get a phone call of really bad news, I guess our emergency mode kicks in and you sort of go, yeah. I've never been one of the people to kind of go, what? Oh my God. Ah!
Yeah.
You know, you kind of take it in and you kind of,
Yeah.
okay. And I think the intensity is when the phone call is over and you put the phone down.
Yeah.
And then you start to process what the hell just happened.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's the phone, I guess, will always be it's a two-way street. You'll get the good calls, you get the bad calls.
Yes. With your mum, was it something where, like, was that phone call kind of an out of the blue thing, or was it, you know, was it a shock to the system? So I mean that in the way of, like, you know, my nana had dementia, but I remember it was one of those things. It was a very slow onset, and there was kind of suspicions as to what was going on, and then she went and got tests, and then it was confirmed. But was it something similar with your mum, or was it something that just hit you out of the blue?
I think when it was confirmed, you know, that's the phone call that you get.
Yeah.
You know, this is real.
Okay.
You know, and you think, okay, my grieving process is going to start now.
Yeah.
Over the next while, and you've lots of questions, and it's just a horrible disease, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a phone call, but there was a message I got which absolutely rocked me. And it was so strange. Because you know the way you have friends in your life where you're super close and then for whatever reason you kind of drift apart, but they're always in the back of your mind as they're there. I must go and give them a shout. So I had a really good friend that I was pally with for about 5 or 6 years. And then we kind of lost touch because we went in different directions work-wise. And there was a phone in my office in work, and it was the landline. And it was one of those office phones with a load of little buttons and little flash lights constantly flashing on it. And you didn't know what they were for. And one day after the radio show, I sat down and I just for the crack picked up the receiver and pressed one of the buttons. And it was a voicemail service on the phone, which I didn't even know was there because we were all using our mobiles.
Yeah.
Who the hell was ringing landlines and leaving messages? And it was a message that was 3 years old telling me that friend that I had died.
Oh my God.
And I didn't know that he was dead because that's the only way that they had tried to communicate with me, by ringing the radio station.
Wow.
So I had missed his funeral. I wasn't able to offer my condolences. And it was just one of those friends that you thought at some point you'd circle back. And time moves so quickly. You know, and 3 years had gone like that because you're working, you're having kids, you're doing all the life stuff. And it just really rocked me in terms of you can't let good friendships go.
Yeah.
And how do you ring up the family of a loved one and say, I was a really
years.
good friend,
Yeah.
but I didn't even realize he was dead for the last 3 years, you know, which almost sounds comedic.
Yeah.
But it really shook me. And I think it was just a real lesson of, man, don't let things like that happen again.
Yeah.
Because he was a great friend.
Right.
And we had drifted apart and I never got the chance to circle back.
And we all have a friend like that. We
Yeah.
all have someone who we keep thinking, God, I must get in touch with such and such.
Yeah. And all it could be is just a little WhatsApp. Hey, you popped into my head today. How's
Yeah.
things?
Wow.
You know? So yeah, that was a phone message or a phone call that I missed a long time ago.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, I never got to say my goodbyes to him.
Yeah, okay. Has your phone ever gotten you out of a tricky situation, or has it ever saved the day for you?
Actually, last night something happened to me.
Go on.
I thought it makes me sound like a bit of a douche. I have some crypto. Not a lot, but some. And I logged into my laptop to see how much I had and how it was doing. You know,
Sorry.
because I tend to forget about it.
If this is like the 2008 photographs, I'm going to hit the deck. Yeah.
So it goes, give me your password. And I go, dilly password. And it's like, this ain't the password. And I was like, well, I'll just do what I do for everything because I cannot remember a password to anything. So I just hit forgot password,
Yeah.
thinking it'll go, sure, we just sent you an email with a thing. Except crypto works much differently. It goes, okay, great, no problem. You can reset your password. You just need to give us the 12 individual words you selected when you opened this account.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
And I was like, I can't even remember my password. How am I going to remember the 12? I didn't remember what they were, where I'd written it down, where I put the piece of paper, because obviously you go, because if you lose that, it's gone. There's no, somebody with a little face mic going, hello, can I help you?
Isn't there the story of the guy who his girlfriend threw out his hard drive years ago and it's worth hundreds of millions?
Yeah.
And he's trying to dig up landfill
Yeah.
and they won't let him. He's trying to sue them now to do it.
Yeah. And I think it's worth hundreds of millions for him. Yeah. Now, I certainly do not have that. It's a few grand.
Wow.
But I was like, that's it. That's it. The money's just gone. Like, it's like having a house and you lose your house keys and then you go, I'm locked out. And they go, well, you don't live here anymore and it's not your house.
My God. And hang on, have you got in?
So I went, I think there may be an app on my phone for this thing, a digital wallet.
Yeah.
So I did it and thank God my biometrics were set up on it because I wasn't a complete moron. So when I used my thumbprint, I got into the account and then I was able to find the 12 key words.
I couldn't take any more loss.
I have the password and the 12 words tattooed on my arse. I'm never losing them.
Oh,
Tricky
Jesus.
to read, particularly in the mirror, but they're there.
You can always get someone to read them for you if you need. The roller coaster that we have been on today, this has been like a psychological thriller. Okay, literally a couple of quick fire questions for you now because I've already taken so much of your time. I just want to know, who is your most called person?
The producer of my podcast.
Okay,
His name is Brian. He's great. He's always there for me. He's my counselor, my producer. I had no idea there was so much work in making a podcast, and we are talking to each other every day.
Okay.
So just as well we get on well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Have you ever had a complete shit show with your phone at any stage?
Yes. And it happened to me while I was live on the radio. So we were in the middle of the radio show and I'm fiddling around during a song or whatever, just trying to get an old photo to show Dave something.
Yeah.
And I was flicking through my Google Photos, when you go, and it's going through the months and the years and you're going back and it just stopped. And I was like, that should have whirred for a longer time. And I went, oh my God. And my face turned white. And everyone in the studio was like, what? And I went, every photo I've owned before 2018 is gone.
Oh no.
And they were like, I know, it must be there. And I was like, no, it's gone. I had changed phones, changed from Apple to Android, and whatever I did
Yeah.
when I was making that changeover, wiped every photo I had. My kids, every celebration, anything I'd done.
Worst nightmare.
It's like Marty McFly in Back to the Future. You're just fading out of your own history. God. And I was like, that's it. My life began in 2018 because you don't have any physical copies of anything from about 2008. You stopped having photos. So everything is gone.
Oh, Jesus.
So I'll show you. It only goes back to 2018. But weirdly, it left me 3 or 4 photos back to 2011.
It's little breadcrumbs.
Yeah, you can have this. And of course, there are a photo of you checking something, or a foot. Gone.
Oh, God.
Cahill, who was on my team, thought this was the funniest thing he had ever heard. He couldn't stop laughing. He's like, everything's gone. I was like, it's my life, you bastard. It's gone. Everything gone.
Wow.
A few months ago, I found a hard drive at home, which had, again, some photos on it. So it had a few photos from my trip to the Euros with Dave, a couple of things. But no, everything gone.
Jeez. Okay, but I'd imagine as funny as that is, there probably is bits with the kids in particular that you're just.
But I remember I did that thing of filming my kids coming down the stairs every Christmas morning for 10 years, going, I'm going to make that video and put them all together of them growing up and coming down. Gone.
I'm actually heartbroken for you. I don't know. Maybe it's the difference between my reaction and Cahill's reaction. Maybe it's the dad in me. I'm just oh no.
No, my youngest daughter, who's now 13, she was actually born at the age of 8. If you go into my Google Photos, she just ate. My wife gave birth to an 8-year-old.
That.
But you know what? You go to this whole kind of existential crisis of, oh my God, where are all my memories?
Yes.
Who am I?
And we're so conditioned now that if there's a picture of it, it didn't happen. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. So you're well, am I okay with this? Talk about forcing you into the present moment.
Wow, yeah.
You have no past.
And now, look at your career.
I feel like Jason Bourne, or someone who lives in a safe house or with a new identity. It's your name is now Josh O'Connor and you're a bricklayer from Detroit.
Wow.
Okay.
That is hilarious and tragic and just terrifying all in one go. That is, oh God.
Well, I'll never forget the moment of, oh my God, I don't exist, everything's gone. And Cahill laughing. Every time he looked at me, I was like, what? Nothing.
That is excellent. Who is the most famous person in your phone book?
Well, it's no secret I'm good pals with Cillian Murphy. Me and him met in the 90s on a film set and we stayed pals. So I guess, obviously he was practically an extra when I met him. I remember he had a part in a movie called Sweetie Barrett. It was Brendan Gleeson's first main role in a movie.
Right.
And Cillian played the barman and I think he had about 3 or 4 lines.
Wow.
And we became pals on that film. With no idea that he would eventually someday win an Oscar. That's completely mental.
Jesus.
What
were you like watching that? That must have been crazy.
Proud, I suppose. He's your best mate. He introduced me to my wife. He's an important guy in my life. So obviously, if something good happens to your friend, you feel like you're in their front row. So you're like, yay.
Were you also like, yeah, fucker?
No, not at all. I'm really happy for him on his success. But it was actually funny. On the same week that he won the Oscar, I sent him a picture saying, well done. Obviously, great accomplishment, but you're not the only one who's picking up major awards. I sent him a photo of me receiving Person of the Month from the Limerick Leader newspaper.
Take that.
Sliding doors moment there. Looks like he took the right fork in the road. No offense to the Limerick leader. It was a proud moment, definitely.
That is a great one. And then the last question we ask for everyone is, has your phone taught you anything about yourself?
The phone teaches me more than anything to stay in the present moment. Because every time I pick it up, I'm aware that it's trying to distract me.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, it helps me to stay here. And I'm much happier when I'm here.
Yeah.
And not off in the future somewhere. So it teaches me in every moment that, distraction can be fun, but the good stuff is here. So put it down from time to time.
It's a great way. It's a lovely way to round it out. I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed this chat, to the point where I thought we were only 20 minutes in and we're like, we've been going for an hour now. Yeah. But look, just thank you for being so giving. I think it's going to be really helpful for a lot of people too. But look, just thank you for sharing your phone truths with us.
Carl, pleasure, man. I loved every minute of it. Yeah. Call me. And if you have a picture of me before 2018, do send it, because I feel like I really don't exist.
Yeah, you thought I was gone. I'm not gone yet, because I want to tell you about Dermot's tour. Because look, he did genuinely have some really useful information there. And I'm sure there was loads of you listening thinking, God, I could do with maybe listening to a bit more of that. He's going on tour. It starts January the 2nd. It's called the Busy and Wrecked Tour. It's a mixture of comedy and a bit of meditation in there as well. And it's pretty much for anyone who's feeling a bit busy and a bit wrecked. So you can head over to his website now, dermotwhelan.com, to get your tickets. Phone Truths is brought to you by Sky Mobile, Ireland's newest network, and it's also mobile you can expect more from. So, how can you expect more, I hear you ask? Well, listen up, because I'm about to tell you. So you can expect flexible data plans to let you change your plan whenever you like. You can also expect your bill to come down automatically once your phone is paid off. And you even get access to exclusive Sky rewards, like flights to Europe and loads more. It sounds absolutely incredible, to be fair. So don't settle for less. Sky Mobile is here, and it's time to expect more. You can visit sky.ie/mobile to find out more.